Welcome to the Waves Business Coaching Podcast, where you can equip yourself with the tools and insights to build a dream team your business needs so that you can lead with confidence, master your people challenges, and reclaim your freedom. I'm your host, Jacob Karnes, a business coach and author of Master Your First Job. This week on the podcast, I interview Nathan Murith. He is a tech advisor out of the Bay Area and also runs a real estate business on the side, is a super present husband and dad, and we have a great conversation about productivity, time management, and things that everyone can be doing to get more time back and focus on what's most important to them in their life. He has some great tips that we talk through, and it's an incredible interview that I can't wait for you to hear in just a couple of seconds. I did write a book called Master Your First Job to help first-time employees thrive in their roles and to help business owners better understand and develop their young talent. I'd love to give you this book for free if you go to masteryourfirstjob.com/free. That's masteryourfirstjob.com/free. You can get a free e-copy of my book. Again, this is a secret weapon to helping, understanding, and developing young talent in your business. There's instructions on there of how to send it to your Kindle. Don't miss out on this awesome opportunity. Masteryourfirstjob.com/free to get the book there. Let's dive into my conversation with Nathan Murith about how to be more productive. Nathan, thank you so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. I'd love for you to take next few minutes, share a little bit about you and your story.
Hey, Jacob, thanks for having me. Super happy to be here. Yeah, where do you want me to start? So right now, well, I guess I'm a full-time husband, try to be a good full-time husband. I'm a full-time father of two young little ones. I'm also a technology executive by day. So I've got a full-time W-2. I've been in technology, building engineering teams and, technology products for about 20 years now.
Okay.
I'm also a real estate investor and I partnered with a good friend of mine to actually build an online community that helps other busy professionals or parents get their start in real estate investing as well. Occasional podcaster as myself. And I picked up golf a few years ago, so I still suck at it. Not good at all, but try to do all the things. And I'm based here in the Bay Area, California right now, originally from Switzerland, but I spent about 10 years in New York and now we're here on the West Coast, so kind of all over the place.
That's right. With golf, do you have a handicap yet? Are you that into it?
I am. I don't know. I'm around a 14, 15, I think.
Hey, that's not bad for being 3 years in. You must play a lot.
I go to the range a lot, and then I go to the course, and I'm an absolute disaster. But you know what? I try.
Golf is that not one sport, but it's a sport where you'll hit 1,000 bad shots and want to quit. But the second you hit that one good one, it keeps you coming back.
It keeps you in.
It keeps you in.
It keeps you in.
I'd love to know, what was your first job?
That's a great question. I don't know which one to pick.
Share both.
I guess the very, very first, I started working on a farm as a farmer.
Wow.
Dairy farmer turned cattle farm. And that was I was super young, probably 6, 7 years old, I think, when I started. And it stemmed from a friend in school who was the son of the farmers. And when you're young and you're a young kid, you go to the farm to play because there's a lot of stuff you could do on a farm.
Yeah.
And then you're old enough to, pick up a broom, shovel cow crap, and get to work. Then you get your big agricultural, vehicle license. And then you're just, 10 years later and you've been doing it, mornings and nights before and after school, summer breaks. And so I did a lot of that for many years, I guess.
That's incredible. Nowhere close to my first job. I did not work on a farm. I worked at a place that served chicken, kind of the opposite of a farm there, I guess. We weren't taking care
the other
of
end.
The other end. That's fascinating. How long did you do that for?
Probably about 10 years.
Wow.
Until around high school. Yeah. So I'd go mornings before school, afternoons after school, basically summer breaks. And summer breaks, I would split between kind of living, and this is back in Switzerland. So we, literally walk the cows up the mountains, stay up in the mountains all summer. This was in like these old, mountain huts, no running water, no electricity. And you're just taking care of cattle basically. And I did that for most of the summer. And when I was not doing that, I was playing with technology. And that's what got me kind of into technology as well, which ultimately is what I do now for a day job.
That's amazing. I feel like it's two totally opposite ends of spectrum of
Completely
jobs
different.
too, right? Like taking care of cows and no electricity to being a technology executive, which is
Yeah.
what is fascinating. So you have a full-time executive role, you run multiple side projects. The thing I really want to dive into is how do you manage this all well, right? Like both time across roles, because with your W-2 job, you can't not show up well there. What's your approach to managing your time effectively across these responsibilities that you have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a lot to it. I would say it probably starts with being very, very clear about what is important to you, or in this
Yeah.
case, me. And then it's kind of building your systems, your life, your tools, all of the above around what is important to you, right? Or to me in this case. So I think I spent a bunch of time, just maybe wasted time, not really appreciating how focus and how understanding what is important to me was in the grand scheme of things. And I would I guess maybe coast through life and just let life happen to me. And I think it's probably when, as many parents or most parents can probably relate to, is the minute you have kids, a lot of things change, and that put a lot of things in perspective. So it became very, very clear to me that I wanted to be a very present father and husband. So I kind of built my life around that. And then I have a bunch of constraints, but that's more the mental side, maybe, of your question, is just being clear on that focus and what's important to you at any point in time. And I spent quite a bit of time, thinking about that when at first I didn't. So I'd say that's step number one. For me, step number two is just staying organized, primarily around my time. And, I think everybody's looking for a silver bullet, an easy way, an easy answer. What's the quick and easy? What's your secret, Nathan, to doing all of this? And sorry to disappoint, but I don't really have one, in the sense that the most important thing to me is my calendar. And I use just Google Calendar in my case, but it could be any calendar, right? And it's really making sure I essentially, block out and schedule every aspect of my life in the calendar. So I start my day with, I have, kiddo duty in the morning so my wife can sleep in, and I'll just be, present with the kids for an hour and a half, and I'm not doing anything else. I'm taking care of them, breakfast, getting them out the door for school. Then I have my, workout chunk of time where I'm just, doing my exercise, my, mindfulness, my reading, all the good stuff that I want to do. Then I have a big chunk of time in the middle of the day that's kind of dedicated to W2. Obviously, that being said, we're in 2025 as well, and I'm in technology. So it's not really, I don't really believe they're, 9 to 5s anymore. You're kind of always on, if you're not sleeping, for all the things, whether it be W2, side gigs, parenting, husband. But I do block off a big chunk of time for W2, obviously. And then I have other chunks of time for my side projects, right? And it's pretty much every single day of the week, of the month, of the year that has these slots that are scheduled for every aspect of my life. And sticking to those is what just helps me stay organized, including kind of when I have, husband and wife time at the end of the day, rest time, sleep time, So yeah, staying organized through my calendar is really the main tool, I would say. And then the last step, maybe step number 3, is getting comfortable with saying no to stuff, because I'm the first to want to please. I'm the first to want to help others. I love to help. It's just part of who I am. But the more we say yes, the more I say yes, the more it's taking me away from these things that are important to me. So I had to learn, but I got comfortable with just saying no to things as best as I possibly can. So I'd say that's it. So nothing crazy, unfortunately. Sorry to disappoint. Jacob, I can't hear you right now. I'm not sure if...
Here I am on mute. I'm going to edit
We're
that
back.
out. We're back.
Awesome.
I think this is a really important and relevant conversation. And I don't think it's boring, because everyone has stuff going on. And I hear all the time from business owners or clients that, man, I'd love to do that. I just don't have time. And so I want to go back to the first thing you said, which is clarity around purpose, right? Like identifying what's important. I'm reading a book right now on speed reading, and it talked about starting with, what's my purpose for reading this? Because it unlocks something in your brain when you identify a clear objective of, I'm reading this book to learn how to blank, because then your brain's going to start picking up on information that helps you solve that purpose. And there's something that unlocks there. And so I think that's huge in identifying what's important. What are some of the things that you've identified as most important as you look at the plethora of stuff you have to do or want to do?
Yeah, I guess again the obvious one probably, but it's family, right?
Yeah.
Family and kids. It drives most of my decision making today. It drives most of my anxiety levels or lack thereof today because everything
Yep.
is relative to that and put into perspective,
Yep.
through that. But it's also what gives me motivation for example, like our real estate portfolio and like our real estate rental business is in purpose of a better future for ourselves, my wife and I, or retirement and all of that. Yes, but it's also wealth that will be handed down a generation to our kids that will help set them up. So it's just motivation, right? It's kind of that spark and that fire to keep things going. So yeah, it's probably the obvious one, but family, wife, kids is number one. And then everything else is derived from that. In my technology, kind of persona or life, I've always been passionate about building great engineering teams, world-class engineering teams that build
Yeah.
world-class products that serve a purpose. I've never been motivated by, say, the next social media app or next food delivery service or whatever, but prefer working on truly meaningful problems and building solutions for those meaningful problems. And as long as I have that, again, it's the motivation factor, I guess, that just helps me, keep going and getting up in the morning and wanting to work on that. And I think in this maybe older age talking at this point as well, but and I'm sure many people who are older than I am could, relate and maybe have even more experience in this, but I've started to put more and more emphasis and importance on just time.
Mm-hmm.
Time goes by real fast. Uh, Putting the effort in being present in the moment and not just waiting for the next milestone in my life, whatever that may be, promotion, product delivery, next rental acquisition, kids graduating or whatever, but it's really being present. So really appreciating time has become one of the important factors in my life, which, yeah, I think that just comes with age. Maybe I definitely was not like this when I was younger.
Yeah, time is one of those things where it's the great equalizer, right? Like everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, and it's
Yes.
up to you how you spend it. I'm glad I had some older and wiser people instill this into me at a young age because an activity I do now and with clients is we create a life plan, but the first question is how old do you think you're going to be when you die? And it's like, okay,
A good question.
so so one, it sets up, if you want to live to 100, well, do you have a healthy lifestyle to get there? But which are some, good setting points to go from there. But also the next question is, so how long do you have left? And so when you start to create like, hey, what do I want to do? And now it's kind of time bound of like, oh, wow, if I want to live till 85, well, now I only have X amount of time left to do that in a good
And it's
way.
not only the years, right? Because it's more about your healthy years, because you can live until you're 90, but in the last 10, if you're bedridden, what's the point?
Right. That's right.
You can't count those years as part of your what's left to do stuff because you'll be bedridden, right?
That's right. You mentioned something too that I read in the book. It reminded me of it. 10X is easier than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. One thing they talked about is never apologizing for your wants. And to your point, it's like whatever's important to you, you don't have to apologize for that. You don't have to explain to somebody else why this is higher on the priority list. Like never apologize for what you want, but work for it, like organize the rest of your life around those things that are most important, which another point you made that I want to kind of go into more is your calendar. And you mentioned something that I don't think a lot of people do, which is putting everything on the calendar. And I've had some people sticker at me when I suggest this, but even like, I'm like, if you're not getting enough sleep, start putting your sleep schedule on your calendar. Because if you're looking at that every day during work and, even when you're at home thinking about your job, like when you see that 10:30 p.m., whatever time it is, bedtime sneaking up, that that's going to be important because it's on the calendar. I think that's really huge, is putting everything on there. And you said you put rest on the calendar and workouts too, right?
Yep. Yeah, I put absolutely everything. And it comes down to this other kind of mindset or philosophy. I don't know if it's a philosophy, but I'm very intentional about trying to forget everything. There's just so much stuff in life that we get bombarded with, text, Slack, WhatsApp, Facebook, work, family, this, that, the other thing, that if we tried to remember or keep track of all this stuff in our heads would hurt. we'd forget half of it, and we would feel overwhelmed. And having everything, or I'll speak for myself at least, I don't want to generalize it. Maybe there are geniuses out there that can. But for me, it's more about everything I could do to get it out of my head so that I don't have to think about it or remember it helps me. So having my day organized down to the half hour, everything I do, I have no surprises. I'm not wondering. I'm not wasting cycles trying to remember what do I do on, Thursdays at 11:20 p.m. I pull up my calendar, it's there.
Yep,
when I have a
that's right.
text message or an email or a podcast that I listen to that I want to go back and do research on or whatever, I will use the shortcut on my iPhone or my computer to set up a reminder to go do that thing at a later point in time when I can get to it. So again, I don't have to remember, oh, I heard a podcast that I want to go listen to again or research or go get the books that you mentioned in there or whatever. It's set as a reminder through the shortcut in my app so that I just don't have to remember stuff ever. And I try really hard to forget everything.
That's huge. This is related, but something that annoys me when I go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress attempts to memorize the order. I'm like, please just write it down. Like, you're not impressing me anymore. You're not going to get any more tip. I'd really rather you just write it down than try to remember it. And the same thing goes for your life stuff. Like I'm with you in that when someone asks me, hey, what do you have going on next Tuesday? I'll let you know exactly what I got going on next Tuesday as soon as I pull my calendar out because it's all written down. I think that's huge. Lastly, your third point, you talked about being comfortable saying no. And I think every no is a yes to something else, right? So if someone's listening and they just have a really hard time saying no, any tips on how to get more comfortable with it?
Well, I would say start.
Yeah, there you go. Just start saying no.
Nobody's died for saying no, at least that I know of. What I've found helps a lot, which is I think a classic at this point, but instead of just saying no, which one may be perceived as being rude or, inconsiderate or anything like that, or something like that, is I started by just saying not now. I'd love to, but not now, right? I'm happy to help, but not now. I can't now. And then over time, that just builds that muscle and that comfort to ultimately just being able to say, no, this is not something I'm interested. This is not something that's important to me right now. And you don't necessarily have to say that, obviously, to the person across the room from you, but it just builds that muscle to be able to say no. And the struggle for me was all around me getting comfortable with saying no, because I always felt personally at first I was saying no as like, I'm being an ass. I'm not being nice to this person, which is absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
But it's just doesn't fit in my life right now.
And that's where the every no becomes a yes is you're saying no potentially to this thing at work because you're saying yes to being a present husband and a present dad at home, right? Like I'm not going to, if I'm saying yes to this thing at work, that could potentially mean saying no to something you've already prioritized, going back to your first point. About like prioritizing what's most important, which in this case is family. I know that a common thing for all people, no matter what kind of job you have, is this idea of balancing work and home life. And especially if you are I'll say a single income family and you're the provider, which is what I am. And like balancing this idea of, well, I have to provide, right? That's my responsibility. Have to work to live, want to live to work. I want to be a present husband and dad. That can be really challenging. How do you ensure to stay present as a husband and dad while managing your professional commitments, which you have a lot of?
Yeah. So again, I think and I know I'm going to repeat myself at this point, but it starts with me clearly telling myself that that's what's important. Because if I don't tell myself that if I'm, end of the day, I pick up the kids at school or whatever, and now it's kind of, afternoon, evening, dinner, shower, bedtime routine, whatever. It's like I'm intentionally telling myself this is what I'm doing. If I don't tell myself that that's what I'm doing, then I will get this message from work, or I will get, a tenant in one of our rentals talk about, or request something or whatever it is and get distracted. So I would say it starts with that. It really starts with, no, right now I'm doing that. That is reinforced by me seeing a big 3-hour chunk of time in my calendar saying this is family time. But then third is I either don't have my phone with me or I put it on silence or airplane mode or whatever so that I don't get distracted by stuff.
Yeah, really hard to answer a work call when your phone's not with you, right?
Very hard.
And something I'll say too is, have you used focus modes? Do you have an iPhone?
Or okay. Yeah. So I use focus. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, and I'm sure Android has something similar, but I have a like home focus mode, and
Mhm.
even certain notifications, it won't even show me the red bubble for notifications because I'll get distracted by LinkedIn or Slack or, pick your work app, Outlook, Mail, whatever. And it just, after a certain time every night, it just won't even show me those red bubbles because I know myself and I know that I'll see the red bubble and I'll go look at it and just go see, who it's from or, make a tassel for tomorrow. But I know myself and I had to just cut it out to your point.
My favorite focus mode is the do not disturb, because the
That's right.
only thing that lights my phone up is a call or a text from my wife or our home alarm system. So that's all I need to care about.
Mine is the same exact way. I have a couple other family members, and that's it. Like, do not disturb. Everybody else off, which I really enjoy. Let me ask you this: Are there any habits or routines that you do with your family to like be intentional about creating a strong family connection?
Yeah, I guess, but maybe they're classics again. I don't know, but we eat every meal outside of when they're at school, of course,
Yeah,
but we eat
yeah,
every meal together typically.
yeah.
And again, it's no activities, no TV, no phone, nothing. We're sitting, we're
Yeah.
talking about the day. We're having meals together. Dinner typically is the one where we have a bit more
Right.
time. We have this activity, which is just a positive reinforcement exercise that I read about or heard about somewhere, where we'll go around the dinner table with our kids, and both my wife and I do the same, but it's just ask, at the end of the day, what were 3 things that went well today?
Mm,
And that just not only helps us talk about each of our own days, it helps us just, converse and, have a discussion and conversation, but it also has this aspect of it's kind of forcing you to think about good stuff and good stuff that happened to you. And we're trying to get our kids into that positive mindset and positive framework from early on. So we do that. And then we're, books, at night, it's story time. We're reading a book. We're not on an iPad or a
yeah.
TV or a phone or anything like that. And we're sharing beds, right, to read the story. So it's like we're together.
Yeah.
And again, no phones. It's the big secret, no phones.
That's a big secret. That's huge, man. And like you mentioned the books I love, like we've built a reading habit, but I love the 3 positive things about the day. That's something that it took me at my age to learn this in my journal every day, where I actually start my day and end my day with 3 things I'm looking forward to, and then 3 things that were great or that I was grateful for that day, beginning and end. To your point, it really helps with mindset. Beginning of the day, it starts my day with I have something to look forward to today. Whether it's silly, whether it's a new podcast episode that came out or a new episode of a TV show, or if it's just like, you know what, I get to have dinner with my family tonight. I'm really excited about that. Uh, there you
Do the
go.
same.
There you
5-minute
go.
journal.
5 minute journal. I love it. Um, getting your kids in the habit of that, I think, is so important, and I think that's a hack as far as being a present dad and husband and building good habits for your family. It's going to improve their life. I know that as we covered a lot of this, you're also in the tech industry. You've mentioned automating as much as you can in your lifestyle. What areas of life or work have you successfully automated, and how has it helped?
Yeah, so it'll depend, but some of the aspects is just like calendar management, right? Most calendars and most tools have, a plethora of tools and
Yeah.
automations built in for reminders, for snoozing, for stuff like that. So it's trying to really, leverage those as much as possible. Like one example is, I'll use the mail snooze features for all of the stuff that I want to forget about temporarily, but come back to follow up on. Say if you and I, I want to follow up with you in a month just to see how you're doing. We have exchanged emails, obviously. I'll snooze those until next month. And then when they pop up, it gives me something to do. I talked about the shortcuts on your phone, iPhone or Android. I'm sure does the same. I'm an iPhone user, but you can pretty much any app, anywhere where you are, you can hit that shortcut button and share button, and then you can share it to save it to a reminders app or a read later app or a to-do, list or whatever. So yes, I know I'm still manually doing these things, but the automating part here is to forget the task and it'll automatically pop up. I set reminders with dates, times, things like that. So I leverage that a whole lot. There are other aspects of my life that I also use, Zapier in my case, or Zapier. And I don't want to debate how you pronounce that because I probably said it wrong.
I say Zapier.
Yeah, I thought it was a Zap. So anyhow, so I use that to automate a lot of, interactions, like to keep in touch with folks. For example, when emails come in, I'll take the email subject, the sender, drop it in a spreadsheet, say this is when you last had a contact with this person. So I know I could kind of keep up with just staying in touch with folks. And then there's a whole host of stuff that, like for our rental portfolio, like our real estate business that we have, that I've automated stuff for so that it's not taking more than 20 minutes of my day, because I don't want to and don't have, frankly, more than 20 minutes a day to spend on a rental portfolio between family, husband, W-2, workout, me time. So it's a lot of that stuff, just learning how to use the tools that we have at our disposal today in their full extent, right? And it'll help just really get a lot of your life streamlined.
That's huge. Let me ask you this as our kind of landing the plane question. We've talked about a lot of managing time and like being productive, being a present dad, being a present husband, automation. If there's one takeaway I want people to take from this episode and our conversation today, what would it be?
That's a great question. I think it's know what you want.
It's huge.
Be clear on what you want and what is important to you. And I think, and I say that one, I had a hard time kind of picking one because I was hesitating between that and the calendar. But I think it's because from my personal experience, I guess, is once you're crystal clear on what that is, actually everything else kind of falls into place, whether it's with tools or not, with automation or not.
Yep.
It's when you don't know what you want that you're running around with a chicken with its head cut off.
Clarity is king or queen. Clarity is important. Know what you want. Clarity for yourself is important, right? That's not just a marketing, messaging, leadership thing. For yourself, it's just as important as it is
100%. Yeah. Yep.
Nathan, where can people connect with you, find out more, learn more about you and your business?
Absolutely. I think the easiest is to just go to my lastname.com. So it's MURITH.com. And there you can connect with me and find out about like some of these productivity hacks that we have around our rental portfolio specifically, but there's stuff that can apply to other parts of one's life.
I love it. And I'll have that linked in the episode description. Be sure to go to Murith.com, MURITH.com, and check out Nathan. Nathan, thank you so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. Thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this week's episode. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Appreciate you, Jacob. Thanks.